Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and winter is coming. And I don't just mean the cold weather, folks. I mean, it's genuinely going to be a cold winter financially for millions of us out here. And I know a lot of times when people start to think about extra ways to make money, they typically think about possibly doing some type of flipping or reselling business. And I want to talk in this video about the only two scenarios where starting a reselling business makes sense. And I want to talk about also why I think if you've just started doing reselling, or if you don't have certain tools, why you should get out of reselling now. And by get out, I mean, I think you should sell all of the inventory that you have as quickly as you can and take those profits and put it into another type of side hustle, whether it be getting licensed to do something, whether it be trying to save up some money to get a car to do DoorDash or Lyft or Uber. There might be other potentially better ways that you can earn more quick cash. So I want to first talk about the two scenarios where I think flipping or reselling will make sense going into 2026. The first and most obvious is Amazon. If you have been ungated to sell items on Amazon.com, then flipping will make sense moving into 2026. The reason why I say that is because one, Amazon is probably one of the best platforms for product distribution. And when you're selling anything, whenever you're in the business of selling anything, distribution is the most important aspect of any business. And I don't think there's a better distribution platform than Amazon just because of the amount of people that actually use Amazon. You have access to millions upon millions of consumers. So if you have access to Amazon to resell items, to flip items, to do any type of resale arbitrage or retail arbitrage, that is, then I would say the Amazon piece is good for you. The second scenario where it will make sense is if you have time and access, right? And I was just going to say, well, the other instances that make sense is if you have time. But the reason why I'm not just saying time by itself is because you can have all the time in the world, but if you are burning more time trying to find items to sell and you're not finding those items fast enough because you just live in a part of the country where items for that you can resell are few and far between, then all the time in the world isn't really going to make much of a difference, because you're going to be spending more time than you actually have, because time is money. Creditors don't wait, bill collectors don't wait. They want their money as soon as possible. So I would say is if you have time and access to what? Access to items that you can easily flip. Whether that be video games, right? If you live in an area where there are GameStops near you that have games that you can flip, whether it's Goodwills near you, Salvation Armies near you, if you live in a part of the country where yard sales happen all year round and you're able to continuously find valuable products, greatly reduced prices, then that makes sense, right? And those are the only two scenarios that I think going into 2026 where trying to get into any type of meaningful flipping or reselling business makes sense. If you don't have Amazon and if you don't have time and access to quality products, you're in for a very, very rough ride. I'm not telling you that it's impossible, but what I am telling you that it is improbable that you will be able to compete at the level that you need to compete at to sustain yourself, right? Or to get to the level with your business where you can actually make meaningful income. Now, just considering where we're at in terms of just our overall economy, and I don't need to state the obvious, right? We know what's going on. We know what's happening in the economy, and we know that what we're going into 2026, this winter that we're going into right now, is almost the complete opposite of the winter that we went into during 2020. While yes, we were all homeward bound, it just seemed like there was more resources. It was just a very different time. We are at the absolute, we're coming up to the absolute opposite of that. Between the government shutdown, between thousands upon thousands of people being laid off, people losing their jobs, people do not have the disposable income in in most instances. And this is why distribution is so important, because it allows you to get access to people in areas where they probably do have the resources to take advantage of retro games or any item that you might flip, that you might have for sale. There might be someone, even if they're not someone here in the States, there might be someone overseas in Europe, Asia, that might see something that you have, that they might feel like they want, and they have the resources to purchase those items. So considering where we're at in our, in our economy, what I'm seeing, especially when it comes to video games, is definitely a reduced interest. And it's not because people don't want video games. It's not that they don't want it. It's just that they can't afford it. They can't afford to buy them anymore. And I'm not just talking about the really expensive retro games. I'm just talking about video games in general. The last few times that I've gone to my GameStop, it's been empty, like really empty. And this is a GameStop. These are GameStops that are typically really packed, really busy. People do not have the money anymore. And even what's more damning, I think, is resellers. Because remember, we went from resellers selling to end users, then we went from resellers selling to other resellers, and now even resellers don't want to buy from each other anymore as much, to be quite honest with you. At least, and again, this will vary from region to region. So please save it in the comments with that. Well, Y2K, that's not what I'm seeing. On my street, okay, there's more than one street than just your street. There's more than one area than just your area. I'm talking about at a larger level, right? And again, my view could be local in some regards, right? Especially when I speak about what I'm seeing in the local GameStops. But when I do like even Facebook Marketplace searches, and I do zip code searches all across the country, or when I look at eBay, or when I just look at the news, and when I reading articles, it's definitely becoming more difficult. And the competition is growing, especially even when you think about GameStop, because now they're trying to offload, their products. And most collectors and people who are looking for like specialty items, a lot of them either A, already have the items that they want, or B, they're pretty much kind of bunkering down and holding off on any discretionary spending until they can make their way through what looks like is going to be a very cold winter financially. So again, I think that now is a time to be smart with how you spend your time. And there are a lot of other things that you can flip than socks and shoes and Labubus and, video games. I mean, again, if it's gonna, different strokes for different folks, but there's a lot of other things that you can flip. A lot of other industries that you can get into that will make you more money. Will the money be as immediate? Will the money be as quick as buying a copy of Pokemon for $10 and flipping it for 30? I mean, no, it won't be as quick. But I mean, that extra $20 or $40 that you make on that Pokemon sale, how far in the week is that going to get you? I mean, after a couple chicken bowls and a couple frappuccinos, it's over. And even if you try to take that $40 to the supermarket, say goodnight, because supermarkets are just as expensive. After a pack of eggs, a gallon of milk, and a loaf of bread, you might as well say goodbye to that $40 as well. So I think that it's very telling, and I'm not trying to make this a doom and gloom type of thing, but I am reading the room, and feeling the temperature, the financial temperature, and feeling where people are at from a discretionary spending standpoint. And I would say that if you're just getting into trying to flip things, you're probably going to be in for a really rough road unless you have the distribution, ideally Amazon, or unless you are in an area where you have time and access to acquire products like at severely low prices, like at greatly reduced prices. If you're not really if you don't have either of those two strategic advantages in the reselling or flipping game, you're gonna be barking up the wrong tree. You're really gonna be going up a creek without a paddle or a half a paddle, and I wouldn't want that for anyone in my community. Again, these are my thoughts. These are my opinions. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'm interested in your thoughts. It's a Y2K Collector. Stay safe.